All right, everybody, just a quick vlog because my parents are coming over for dinner, and I have been told that I don't have time to do this while fishing. To make sense of Justice Arthur Engoron's decision coming out of New York, ordering Donald Trump to pay $450 million in disgorgement and pretrial interest. For those of you who haven't heard this, where the hell have you been? Most of you have probably heard that the order was a cool $355 million spread across Donald Trump, his kids, Weisselberger, that guy there. But he got only $1 million that he has to pay out of this. $355 million disgorgement in ill-gotten gains in a case in which there was no victim, no fraud, and everybody who was involved in the business transactions was happy with what went down. Brought to you by Leticia James, who campaigned off persecuting Donald Trump.
In addition to that, the Office of Attorney General will continue to follow the money because we believe that he's engaged in a pattern and practice of money laundering the money from foreign governments here in New York State, and particularly related to his real estate holdings. It's important that everyone understand that the days of Donald Trump are coming to an end, but we can only do it if all of you exercise the most fundamental right, a right which is basic to democracy, and that is the right to vote.
Justice Arthur Engoron, for those of you who don't know who he is, I call him Nipple Judge Engoron. He's the guy that had a high school alumni internet webpage that he was managing, in which he was posting links to all of his various court orders, punishing Eric Trump, punishing the Trumps, etc., etc. And at one point, I guess he decided to show off how much weight he had lost as an elderly gentleman who's fit, and posted his upper torso with the hashtag bonus torso pic. Gross, 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 period. The judge is corrupt to the core, judicially corrupt. So Leticia James got exactly the right judge that she needed. Arthur Engoron had given a speech to some journalists 8+ years ago in which he bragged about all of the judicial tools he has under his belt to arrive at the decisions he wants to arrive at. Collateral estoppel, summary judgment. Summary judgment is the one he used in this particular case.
I had one last thing to say about tools. A lot of what I do involves motions. These summary judgment motions I mentioned. And all right, am I following the law or am I making law? Okay, I'm following law. I'm an impartial referee, but it's hard to factor out my own emotions. And I have tools. Somebody can say, well, Your Honor, you have to throw out this case because it's just like another case. Well, is it just like another case? What if the defendant was wearing a red sweater instead of a blue sweater? Well, that's an extreme example. That wouldn't distinguish most cases, but there are other facts that do. Maybe the education of somebody who supposedly entered into a contract would decide whether the contract was binding. I have a tool that I'll call a tool called estoppel. Somebody makes an argument and I say, you can't make that argument. You made a different argument 3 months ago in this case, or even in another case. So I wish you all luck. I'll stand here or around afterwards for questions. And again, thanks to the administration for having me.
So, people are asking me, make sense of it, Viva, make sense of it for me. I was thinking about it and I said, there's only one way to make sense of it. It's communism in action. CIA coined it, trademarked it, whatever. Anybody who uses CIA as communism in action, unless you can prove that it was created before today, I'm taking credit for that. And if it existed beforehand, spontaneous creation, I thought of it today. It's communism in action. What you have here is a Lavrenta Beria, however you pronounce the name. The Russian maxim, paradigm, find me the man, I will show you the crime. That's what we have here. Leticia James campaigned off prosecuting Donald Trump. Gets into office, prosecutes Donald Trump. Ends up with this corrupt Judge Engoron. And this order, this ruling, comes as no surprise to anybody who's been following it, because the whole issue here is we already knew that Engoron had found Trump liable for fraud, at least as relates to the Mar-a-Lago evaluation, which he said, is in the order of 18 to 27 million, not 500 million to $1 billion. And surprise, surprise, it's definitely more in line with the $1 billion valuation than the 18 to 27 county appraiser evaluation. He was already found liable by Judge Engoron on summary judgment. So we knew this was coming. We just didn't know how much Judge Engoron was going to disgorge by way of equity in the context of this case, which didn't go to jury trial. We'll get to that in a second. So after 6 weeks of trial, or as we like to say, show trial, kangaroo court, because liability had already been determined, Judge Engoron issues his court ruling, 90 some odd pages. If you want to read fan fiction, it's porn. It's basically like political porn for people who hate Trump. Go read this decision. It's rubbish. We all knew it was going to come down to this. We didn't know it was going to be $355 million plus $98 million in pre-judgment interest at 9% because these, political hacks have to pay their salaries somehow, and there's only going to be so much money left in New York State after this ruling to grab. $98 million in pre-judgment interest, $355 million in equitable disgorgement of ill-gotten gains, where the banks were happy with the relationship. The banks had given loans based on Trump's valuations, which Engoron thinks were inflated, exaggerated, fraudulently so. Banks got paid back in full. Tens of millions of dollars. I think it was over $40 million. They were very happy. They were happy that they got Trump's business. This was a political persecution from day one. Judge Engoron used that little tool called summary judgment to find Trump liable before the show trial that we witnessed, which was no trial at all, and then issued this order. And that's it. I mean, there's nothing more to make sense of this order. There are certain portions of it that are drafted like an unhinged lunatic. At one point, Judge Engoron says, it's stunning how there's no remorse, no contrition or remorse for what they've done. Of course there isn't, big brother, because they did nothing wrong. They did nothing wrong. No one complained. There was no victim of any alleged fraud. There was no fraud. You want them to show contrition and remorse for nothing? Make them say, I love Big Brother, Judge Engoron. That's what you're trying to do. At another point in the judgment, I highlighted this. Engoron says they had no right to a jury trial, period. Because this was like equitable relief under the law, whatever the rule of procedure was. I talked about it in the past a lot. They had no right, and I'm quoting Judge Engoron here, to a jury trial, and then sneakily puts in a footnote, well, they didn't ask for one anyhow. As if asking for something that you had no right to by the judge's own orders and by everyone's understanding of the law adds anything of value other than a little cover my tushy, because I'm just going to give that talking point back to the media. They never asked for a jury trial, whereas I had already determined they had no right for it under the law. Just to highlight, by the way, whatever the media tells you, the MSM, the legacy media, the legacy mainstream propagandist hack of media, you will more likely than not make more money if you bet that the opposite is true. Remember the headlines. Trump's lawyers, negligent idiots, forgot to check off a box. That's why he gets no jury trial. Bullcrap. That was a lie to begin with. Whether or not you agree with the law, it was a lie from the beginning, but it was a lie that allowed them to demonize Trump's lawyers, to make them look like hacks, mediocre, average lawyers. It was used to demonize Trump, to make him look like a bumbling idiot. Engoron, in his decision, confirms they had no right to it in the first place, but in a footnote, but they never asked for it anyhow. What's going to happen with this decision? What's happening already? Exodus. This is like escape New York, people. Take your wives, take your kids, hide your wives, hide your kids. Get out of New York. Take your money, take your business, take your pets, take your cars. Get the hell out of that corrupt state. Because everyone thinks, oh, this can't happen to anybody. It can only happen to Trump. Hochul basically said this today. Governor Kathy Hochul effectively said, don't worry, people. Law-abiding, rule-following businessmen, you don't need to leave New York. This can only happen to Trump.
I just got off the phone with Attorney General Tish James and spoke to her about how this sends a strong message that in the state of New York, businesses, business people who commit fraud and to hide their assets will be caught and prosecuted, whether you're the President of the United States, a past president and forever past president of the United States, or you're an ordinary business person. No one is above the law here in the state of New York. And I congratulate her and her effort for making sure that that is a message that is heard loud and clear, not just here in New York, but across this entire nation.
All right, so it's politically partisan motivated from the get-go. Oh, and by the way, I made a joke on Twitter. Do tell us, what are the laws and what are the rules? And Hochul will come and say, They're whatever the hell we say they are if we don't like you. If we like you, don't worry about it. You're BLM, you won't get audited for charities. You won't get indicted like We Build the Wall did. What are the rules? What are the laws? Whatever the hell we say they are. Because if we decide we're going to find a crime, we're going to find a crime. Show me the man, I will show you the crime. People are going to be leaving en masse the way they should be. Get the hell out of New York. Get out of Delaware. Get out of California. Elon Musk gets his decision from a political activist hack of a judge out of Delaware. Well, good for you, Delaware. Enjoy the bankruptcy that you're going to inherit. You're no longer so appealing to businesses anymore. New York, enjoy becoming San Francisco. What do you think happens when the money generating, tax generating, revenue generating, employment generating businesses up and leave your communist fascist state? I'm throwing around some words here that might be mutual. You know what I'm getting at. When they leave your communist inaction state, what do you think happens? Who pays the taxes for the roads? Who pays the taxes for the social welfare programs? For the illegal immigrants that are coming in there, that are kicking out the homeless people from shelters, that are kicking out students from their schools? Who pays for it? You can't get blood from a turnip, and you can't get tax dollars from citizens, residents who don't pay taxes in your state. You could try to tax them off the wazoo as they leave. I think there was something of a discussion of an exit tax coming out of California. You could try. And Hochul is already trying to, entering panic mode. Don't leave, don't leave. This could only happen to Trump. Congratulations. Thanks for saying the quiet part out loud. This was politically motivated. If it can happen to anybody, get the hell out of New York. Financial exodus, vote with your feet, vote with your dollar, and protect your ass and your assets. Or I should have said it the other way. Protect your assets and your ass. New York State is going to get exactly what it deserves in this. You have some truckers now saying we're going to boycott New York State over this political injustice of a trial. Do it. Vote with your feet, vote with your dollar. People want to support divest and boycott programs. Guess what? That is a two-edged, double-edged sword, double-edged knife. Truckers are saying we're going to boycott New York, and then you got the defiant communist inaction residents of New York saying, good, we don't need you. Enjoy empty shelves. Enjoy programs that can't pay for themselves. Enjoy the crime that is inevitably going to follow this type of financial exodus from New York. The irony in all of this, from what I understand historically, I was young at the time, it was Trump-ish and the Trump changing of the skyline that actually reformed New York in the 80s and the 90s with the help of Giuliani, who they've also persecuted to the end of what is reasonable. It was Trump that reshaped New York through what he did in the 80s and 90s. It's going to be them that reshapes New York by kicking Trump out, by chasing him out, and by basically saying, hey, Trump, it's a nice building you got there. I think we're going to take it. $355 million disgorgement plus another $98 million in pretrial interest. And as far as I understand on the appeal, Trump either has to post a bond or the entire amount and just put $450 million in an account at the court pending the appeal. So Judge Engoron, in exploiting all of his tools to achieve the ends of injustice that he wants, summary judgment on liability, 6-week show trial on, whatever evidence showed that the banks were happy with the arrangement. They never would have complained. They would have made the loans anyhow had Trump been worth half of what he said he was worth. After that, he now has this massive judgment that in order to appeal itself could bankrupt anybody or severely financially compromise them, thus making it virtually impossible or very difficult to appeal, which Trump will. And we'll see what happens. If this decision does not get overturned and Engoron judicially spanked, I'm sure he'd like that, and potentially judicially reprimanded for egregiously judicially corrupt conduct. If it doesn't happen, New York State is gone. Get the hell out, don't come back. It's a beautiful state and it's a shame. It's a beautiful city, or it was, and it's a shame. But if there's not an overturning on appeal and a judicial spanking for all the players involved in this, no one will have learned the proper lessons, but there will be justice at the end of the day. 2024 is turning out to be the year of the reckoning and the year of justice. I'm holding my breath, metaphorically speaking, but that is all you need to know about that wild, outrageous communism in action of a decision coming out of New York. And we'll see. All bets are in, people. Now you know your vlog. I better go start the barbecue and cook some easy meat steak. Oh, yeah. What else? Like, share, subscribe, and vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Go. Enjoy the night. Peace. Booyah.